Welcome back, class, to our magazine chapter, part 2. I'd like to talk a little bit about a gentleman named Henry Luce and his empire. He was an American magazine magnate who founded magazines such as Time, Life, Fortune, and Sports Illustrated. Time was founded in 1923 as a news magazine, and the purpose was to summarize the week's news in the shortest possible space. Life magazine started in 1885 without photographs, eventually became famous for featuring some of the world's best photographers, and Time, Fortune, Life, Sports Illustrated, Money, and People Weekly remained some of the most successful magazines that the world has ever known. Let's talk about the rise of general interest magazines. After World War I through the 1950s, general interest magazines gained in popularity. They covered topics such as recent developments in the government, medicine, or society. They combined investigative journalism with broad national topics. Photojournalism was a key aspect, and the use of photographs to augment editorial content. These high quality photos gave magazines a huge advantage over radio, which was the most popular medium of the day. And there were 4 giants: Time, Life, Reader's Digest, and the Saturday Evening Post. So photojournalism became really important. And so the Crimean War, I don't know if you remember this from your history classes, but it was a military conflict fought from the mid 1850s, 1853 to 1856, which the Russian Empire lost an alliance of the Ottoman Empire, France, Britain, and Sardinia, lost to an alliance. The immediate cause involved the rights of the Christian minorities in the Holy Land, which was part of the Ottoman Empire. And the French promoted the rights of the Roman Catholics, while Russia promoted those of the Eastern Orthodox Church. So the longer-term unwillingness of Britain and France to allow Russia to gain territory and power at the Ottoman expense. It has widely been noted that the causes, in one case involving an argument over a key, have never released greater confusion of purpose, yet they led to a war noted for its notoriously incompetent international butchery. So a lot of the photos from that era gave magazines a visual advantage over radio that had come into play. We'll talk about radio in 2 units from now. So Roger Fenton was the photographer, and you can see these photos here: the Valley of the Shadow of Death, a dirt road in a ravine scattered with cannonballs, one of the most famous photos of the Crimean campaign. So giving magazines a visual advantage over radio, magazines had with the use of photography. And in the 1970s and onward, the emergence of computer technology has raised new ethical concerns about photojournalism, so far as the ability to change or digitally alter photos. And because of the absence of film, there is a resulting loss of proof. Have photo editors gone too far? That's a question for you all to answer. So the rise of general interest magazines. The prominent general interest magazines included the Saturday Evening Post, Reader's Digest, Time, and Life. The Saturday Evening Post, although the Post had been around since 1821, it didn't become the widely popular general interest magazine until 1897. The Post printed popular fiction and romanticized American virtues through words and pictures. In the 1920s, it featured articles relating to the business boom and hit a circulation of 2 million and it was the first magazine to hit that mark of 2 million in circulation. The Reader's Digest magazine printed condensed versions of selected articles from other magazines. Pocket-sized, inexpensive printing and low price, the circulation soared even during the Great Depression. By 1946, it was the most popular magazine in the world. Time magazine began in 1923, as I mentioned before. Time developed a brand of interpretive journalism covering newsworthy events and presented a point of view of these events, and today Time's circulation is about 3 million. Life magazine, oversized pictorial weekly magazine, launched in 1936, features extensive photo spreads, fashion photography, lavish advertisements. Had a pass along readership, the total number of people who come into contact with a single copy of a magazine of more than 17 million. The fall of general interest magazines kind of began in the late 1950s. In the 1950s, weekly general interest magazines began to lose circulation. One magazine, however, gained in popularity, and that was TV Guide. TV Guide was launched in 1953 to exploit the nation's growing fascination with television. And in the late 1950s, early 1960s, most households did have televisions at that time. Prior to that, they did not. You'd have to find someone who had a TV or go to a place that had a television. Some people even went to television stores to watch TV. So a lot of people didn't have them in their homes till the late 1950s, early 60s. But this TV Guide magazine gained popularity. It printed the TV lineup. It had become the first weekly to reach a circulation of 8 million in 1962. When local newspapers started to list TV schedules, it kind of undermined TV Guide. But today, TV Guide is still around and is a full-size single edition that focuses on entertainment and lifestyle news, and is also tvguide.com if you'd like to look at the online version. So the fall of general interest magazines, continuing that, the Saturday Evening Post, Life, and Look magazine. Saturday Evening Post closed in 1969. Look closed in 1971. Life closed in 1972. And these magazines fell victim to high production costs, increased postal rates, and, of course, television. Advertisers spent more money on TV spots, which were less expensive magazine ads and reached a larger audience. So let's look at the top 10 magazines between 1972 and 2014. So you can see some of the magazines do carry through from 1972 and are still on the top 10 list in 2014, such as Reader's Digest and Good Housekeeping. And what else do we have here? Family Circle, National Geographic stayed at number 7 for both time periods. But some magazines did come into popularity in the later years here. AARP, the magazine, and AARP, the bulletin, become very popular, ranking number 1 and 2 in 2014. So let's look at some more modern magazines here. The top magazines in the US in 2024 were People magazine, the most popular magazine in the US. AARP, the magazine, continuing its popularity there, the second most popular. All Recipes, the third most popular magazine. GQ, Gentleman's Quarterly, that's been around for decades and decades. Popular men's magazine, also Men's Health, Men's Journal, and Ask Men. Other popular magazines include National Geographic, which has been a staple for decades, Rolling Stone, Time, Reader's Digest, Better Homes and Gardens, Smithsonian, Consumer Reports, and Food Network magazine. Amazon sells magazines as well. These are some of their best sellers. Again, you see some of the same titles, Better Homes and Gardens, Reader's Digest, they still remain popular. The fall of general interest magazines continued. However, People magazine did really, really well. It was launched in 1974. It capitalized on the celebrity-crazed culture that accompanied the rise of television. Like TV Guide, it emphasized supermarket sales, celebrity profiles, and human interest stories. People showed a profit in just 2 years with lots and lots of photographs. It was the first successful magazine of its kind in decades, and some charged that People was too specialized to be mass market with its focus on celebrities, music, and pop culture. Let's talk about convergence magazines and how they confronted the digital age. A lot of magazines ended up moving online. The flexibility of web and mobile devices and the ability to reach new and larger audiences Many magazines are being distributed in print and digital versions. Links through social media are another way magazine content reaches a wider audience. And magazines embrace digital content. Webzines are online only, made the internet a legitimate site for breaking news and discussing culture and politics. Such webzines are Slate and Salon. Magazines are grouped by two important characteristics: advertiser type, which would include consumer magazines, business or trade, and farm magazines. Target demographics might include gender, age, or ethnic group, and audience interest area. Sports, literature, or tabloids are some popular magazine interest areas. Magazines are also broken down by target audiences, which I mentioned on the page before, such as men or women, sports, entertainment, and leisure, age group specific, like if you're reading AARP, the magazine, they would think that you would be of retirement age or approaching retirement age. They would have articles and stories that would appeal to that age group, whereas if you were reading a child's magazine, like Sesame Street, or a magazine like that, they highlights magazine, they would think that you would probably be of a younger age, and they would have stories and learning tools and things in there that would appeal to children. Elite magazines aimed at cultural minorities, minority magazines, trade magazines, alternative magazines outside the mainstream, supermarket tabloids, and online magazines. Alternative magazines have historically defined themselves through politics, while what constitutes an alternative magazine has broadened over time, anything outside the mainstream. Something called zines are self-published magazines, and some have achieved mainstream success, like National Review and Mother Jones. Some are left progressive, some are to the right politically. So what are the economics of the magazine industry? Money in would be advertising coming into the magazine, bringing money to the publishers, newsstand and subscription sales. Where does the money go for a magazine publisher? Well, for content development, for production, for sales and marketing, and distribution, such as postal costs, trucking costs, etc., transportation costs. So advertising and sales, the more successful the magazine, the higher its circulation. So let's talk a little bit about the editorial staff here. Would include the publisher, the editor-in-chief, the managing editors, and sub-editors. So sub-editors oversee photography, illustrations, reporting and writing, copy editing, layout and print, and multimedia design. The production and technology department would maintain computer and printing hardware. Advertising and sales, like I said before, the more successful the magazine, the higher its circulation, and the more it can charge for ad space. Top consumer magazines might charge upwards of $300,000 for a full-page color ad. In some cases, the advertisers can strongly influence editorial content, circulation and distribution, monitor single copy and subscription sales, and subscriptions may be paid, evergreen, controlled, or even digital. So here are some major magazine chains: Time, Hearst, Meredith, Condé Nast, and Rodale, and many others. Top consumer magazine companies, take a look at those. Magazines have played a central role in transforming the U.S. from a producer society to a consumer society, diminished its national voice today. Contemporary magazines help us think about ourselves as participants in a democracy. We are often viewed as consumers first and citizens second. Magazines are growing increasingly dependent on advertising, and good magazines maintain our connection to words in an increasingly digital culture. That's all for our magazine unit. We will continue next week with our music and recording unit.